sides face Grand Square. Circle left, winding your way down Baker Street, lighting you head and dead on your feet, where the men start right. One time tonight, left down a man and you weep.
All right, here we go. Another Square Dance Callers Talking. Tonight, I am in Carlock, Illinois with Curt Braffet. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Charlie. How are you doing?
Very good, sir. It's a pleasure to get to talk to you again. We talked just a few weeks back when we were in Milwaukee, Wisconsin at the Nationals. We've seen each other in the past at different conventions. Since you are in Illinois, we don't run into each other, you know, on a weekend or anything like that. Not yet, but you do get down around this way. We were talking earlier. You're going to be at Pride in September, Pride RV, and we'll talk about that. But let's talk about you. Where are you from?
Well, I'm originally from Illinois. I'm from the northern part of Illinois originally, a little town called Maple Park, which is close to DeKalb, about an hour and a half west of Chicago. And now I live down in Carlock, Illinois, which is in the middle of the state. I'm halfway between St. Louis and Chicago now, outside of Bloomington Normal.
I don't know if I've ever passed through there. I've been through Illinois a couple of times, but just driving. How long have you been in Carlock?
Oh, I've been in Carlock, I guess, since 1995. So whatever that equates to, almost 30 years now, I guess.
Was it work that took you there? Or how'd you end up there?
Yep, my job originally brought me there. First, I moved down here because I went to a junior college after high school for 2 years, and then I transferred to Illinois State University, which is in Normal, Illinois. And then 2 weeks before the final exam, I secured a job, so that made finals real easy.
Nice.
And they moved me another half hour south down to Lincoln, Illinois, which is where I originally started calling. And then I lived there for a few years, and then got this job that I just retired from. And it was with the Illinois Department of Agriculture as a plant and pesticide specialist. So did that for 29 and a half years, and here I am.
And so you did it for 29 and a half years. You told me you just retired in May. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yep. The end of May. Gave it up.
Good call. Good call, buddy. I am not far behind you. You mentioned just a moment ago you started Square Dance Calling. Tell me about that. When did you start calling, and how did that all come about?
After I got out of college, my wife and we'd been married for a couple of years by then. We moved to Lincoln, Illinois, and my wife when we were dating in high school, my wife and she knew that I was around the square dance activity a lot because my dad was a square dance caller, and he did a lot of dancing with Bauer and Shoemake and Singing Sam. So, you know, when we'd be on a date, if one of those guys were coming through town, I'd just swing by with her. We'd say hello, and then we'd hit the road again. And so she knew I was involved with square dancing, and we got out of college, got my first job, and she just looked at me one day, said, "Well, we gonna start dancing?" I said, "Yeah, may as well." So one of the guys I was working with was in the local club, and so I asked him about it, and we got it back into lessons. And that was my second time going through. I started out as a kid dancing. I couldn't dance until I was tall enough. My dad wouldn't let me start till I was tall enough because, you know, we had a lot of maneuvers where the guys had to have their hands up above the women's head,
right?
You know, like curlicue and the box and net and that type of thing. So once I was tall enough in 1972, I could start dancing.
So you start dancing in 1972 because you got tall enough. That's fortunate.
Right.
Fortunate you were a tall, but you weren't a short person. You had to wait a little bit longer. And your dad was a caller. So is that where it came from in the family? Your dad being the caller?
Pretty much. I believe so. Really didn't catch the calling bug until 1985, but after my wife and I started dancing together, and then once I caught that bug, it's already been in my blood. I know my dad said when I was a small kid, I used to sit underneath his table when he was practicing, and I'd sing along with him. Didn't remember doing that, but he was told me that one time, and the fun thing is once I did start calling, I got to call some dances with my dad too. So that was pretty fun.
Phenomenal. So around 1985 was when you started calling. Now, was that working under your dad's mentoring, or was there other people involved with that?
Yeah, my dad helped me more with the business end of it because I lived 2 hours away from him. And so I was living in Lincoln at the time, and Lincoln was a population of 32,000, and they had 5 square dance callers in town. So I had the main mentor was Charley Engelhardt at the time, and he helped me with the basics, getting started, working with some modules and that type of thing. And then another guy by the name of Dale McRoberts helped me with microphone management. And then the big one was when I got hooked up with Brad Carter, and he's the one that helped me out with choreography.
Brad Carter.
Yeah.
Now, everybody has their own little stories. All out of all the callers that I've talked to, were you more focused into the choreography starting out, or doing singing calls? How did you really get going?
Well, when I started, it was all, it was the singing calls. My first record was If You Got the Money, I Got the Time, that Jerry Haig put out on Chaparral. And I remember the first time I did it for a crowd at a dance, Charley Engelhardt put the wrong side of the record up. He had the singing call side up. And of course, like most callers, I was word for word anyway. It took him till the middle break to figure out that, oh, shoot, I put the wrong side of the record on. And so, yeah, so he flipped the record over and I started over. But of course, I didn't chain the ladies back home.
Right.
And so I took off again. And then once the came the end of the second figure, I just quit because heck, they're all back home.
Okay.
So
that's good.
So that was interesting.
Absolutely. Now, when you got into the choreography part of it, and that's where most, not all, some people take right to the choreography. Did you struggle with it, or were you comfortable?
It's been so long, I don't remember. I guess it wasn't all too bad.
Okay.
I know Charley made the comment. No, Brad made the comment because he's the one that took me under his wing for the choreography. He made the comment to me that in just the year that I was, into calling, how much further along I had become versus one of the other guys in the area there that it's been calling for about 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it came kind of natural. Okay. I wouldn't say I'm the guru king of choreography or anything, but I can usually move people around and bring them back to their corner.
And that's what it's all about right there. And I've been to a lot of caller schools over the years, and it's just moving people around. You can make what you want of it. And some people have a very special way of doing it, and that's what I'm working towards. So, and that's phenomenal. That's good stuff. Now you started with the singing calls, and you went into the choreography, and this is something I've just started asking people. If you could do something different from the beginning, is there anything you would do different calling wise?
I probably would have went to a caller school.
Okay.
I've never been to one, and not saying that was a good thing or a bad thing, but if I had to do it over, I'd probably go to one.
Okay.
This would have I think it would have made the learning process of calling a lot easier, a lot quicker.
Yep.
There's just different things. I'd been calling for 8-10 years before I figured out what a chicken plucker was.
Is that right? Wow. Going to caller schools and everything like I have, I did pick up on that because you learn the chicken pluckers and stuff like that. But because there was no rhyme or reason to it before, but it teaches you more. Like you were saying, your dad helped you with the business end of it. Um,
Yep.
and you had some mentors working with you on the choreography. There's a lot of caller schools out there. And the ones that I've been to, there's a day of the business. There's a day of the leadership part of it, and then there's calling. The biggest thing I see on that is starting out. Now, if you had 3 or 4 people working with you, you had opportunities to call, depending
Yes.
where you are. If you're doing one tip every other weekend at somebody's dance, that's great. And you need to do that, but you're not learning choreography as much as you work. It's mic time, mic time, mic time. You've got to be up there doing something. So I agree. Yeah, caller schools are really good for that. It gets you on the mic and gets you going. Now, if you're fortunate enough, you start out. I've talked to some people. They say, "Yeah, I called for a year and I have my own club." And I thought, well, good for you. That's a tough
Yeah,
run there.
that was I was kind of similar to that situation.
Okay.
Um, you made a real good point, Charlie. Newer callers nowadays, they don't have near the opportunity
Right.
as I did when I started. I could dance 4 or 5 nights a week, so I could call 4 or 5 tips a week. Because most of the guys were, and I hope it's still true today, but I think most callers, if they're at their home club and there's a new caller that comes in, he'll give them a tip.
Absolutely.
Now,
In Georgia, it was that way. I know, I'm sure it's different in other places, for better, for worse. But in Georgia, when I was coming up 10 years ago, there was at the time, there was 6 or 7 clubs within 20 miles of where I live. Every time I walk in, of course, it was records back then. We hadn't gone completely digital yet. Um, I'd always throw some records in my back seat, because one of the things that my mentors told me, they said, always have your records and microphone, but do not walk in with them to somebody else's dance. And so I would have it in my car and I'd come in, they're like, "Hey man, go get your stuff." And so I'd go out to my car and get it, come in, and they put me up, depending on who it was. So I
Right.
did have that opportunity, but for the folks that just are a member of a club, you got to get that mic time. So caller schools are a plus for that, for sure.
Yep,
So
absolutely.
you were fortunate in that regard. Now, since 1985, you've been calling. I'm assuming you've done some traveling with that.
Oh yeah.
What's
Yep,
some of the
I've been
what's some of the more memorable venues and things you've been to?
well, Maggie Valley, down there in North Carolina. Can't beat it.
Yep,
It's a great place. I mean, you want a square dance hall, you've got one right there.
that's it. Pride RV, fantastic.
Yep, yep. And then back in the day, English Mountain, that Shoemake had.
Okay,
They're outside of Sevierville. I really enjoyed that.
never had the opportunity.
Never called at it, but I used to dance at it, the Lighted Lantern,
Okay,
outside of Boulder, Colorado. There, that was a place I used to enjoy going. That was Burrow, Maine's place.
okay. Now, with your traveling, do you have your own clubs? What are you doing right around where you live?
I've got 3 clubs here where I'm at. I've got an SSD club, a mainstream club, and a plus club. No longer have an advanced club. That's just because I don't have any advanced dancers in my area right at the moment.
Yeah.
But,
Now,
we'll get back there.
how high a level do you call and dance to?
A2.
A2.
I can. I'm just starting to dabble in C.
Okay.
But I call through A2. And that's also all the higher I dance.
Okay, gotcha. Well, I was going to ask you about any funny stories or anything like that, but before we get into that, you brought it up. You've got a week that you do in Pride RV in Maggie Valley, North Carolina. It's Waynesville, I believe, but Maggie Valley is like 2 miles away, and everybody kind of knows where Maggie Valley is. Pride RV is fantastic resort setup. It has everything there, and fantastic dance hall with a floating hardwood floor that that Tony and them put in way back in the day. So tell me about your week that you do there at Pride.
It's a week I do with Bob Asp. It's a plus week, and it starts the Sunday after Labor Day. And it goes Sunday night through Friday morning. And, the regular format is a morning workshop, evening dance, and we'll have 1 or 2 afternoon sessions.
Very nice. Okay.
That way people can get out and around and see the area there. So I do that week there every year with Bob, and we used to do it with Story, but of course, he's passed away. And
Right.
you just can't hardly replace Jerry.
No. Go ahead.
So then I do a couple of weekends up in the Wisconsin Dells. One of those I do with Dan Sahlstrom at the end of May, and the other one I do in October with Bob Asp again. Do a weekend over in Nauvoo, Illinois. I do that with Tom Manning. That's in the middle of August. I've got one I do in Turkey Run State Park there in Indiana. That's a great, just a beautiful area, and I do that in May. That's a plus weekend also. So, and then I get to do, I'm fortunate enough to do some state conventions every now and then. So works out nice.
With all the calling you've done, and you named off a couple of record producers and stuff like that. So tell me about some of the recordings you've done.
The first one I did was on Nickle, which was owned by Jack Berg at the time, which was Chicago country. And first record we called it Dancing Moon. The actual title of the song was Love Someone Like Me. A lot of people remember Holly Dunn doing that, but I first heard it from a bluegrass group by the name of Newgrass Revival. I saw them on Hee Haw.
Okay.
And as soon as I heard them do that, it's like, that's a square dance record.
There you go. Very nice.
And so took that to Jack and said, yeah, we can do that. It was funny. Can't put you on Chicago country though. You got to pay your dues. Okay.
Okay. Very nice. Very nice.
So,
do you have any singing calls or anything that you your favorites? I'm not going to ask you to ask for your favorite because most people with the years that you put in, you don't have one favorite. Tell me some of your favorite ones.
well, I'll give you some of the crowd favorites.
Okay, that's
but I also enjoy them too. They Call the Wind Mariah, and I do that one off of the the Eagle label.
Mm-hmm.
That was Jim Chamondel's label. And another one I do is Mockingbird that Jerry Story put out on Royal. That one's always a good one, and I enjoy using his the one with the background vocals. I can't think of her name right now, but that's always real cute.
Okay, Mockingbird. Okay.
Yeah. I had one out on Miracle Records, Lady Willpower, the old Gary Puckett tune. People really enjoy that one. So those are some of the bigger ones.
Okay. Well, you were watching Hee Haw and some of the songs you said. What's your favorite music genre that if you're not listening to square dance music, what are you listening to?
I don't have just one. It's either 60s, 70s, and some 80s rock. It's bluegrass, or it's 70s and 80s country. I love my classic country. I'll still listen to today's country and today's rock occasionally, but if I turn serious on, it's 60s, 70s. So.
Before I forget to, I want to ask you, calling up to the A2 level, because I ask everybody and I write it down because I'm making my own little groupings. Do you have a favorite call, whether it be mainstream plus SSD, just to watch dance or whatever?
I don't know. I think the favorite calls kind of come and go.
Right.
It seems, at least for me, I kind of get hooked on a call for a while, and I'll explore that, and then okay, dancers are tired of me doing that. Let's move to the next one.
Gotcha.
So lately it's been spin chain through.
Spin chain through. And that's good because
And
that's
I like
those
doing that with
calls
SSD because, you know, uh, at SSD, you have to say swing through, but the centers go 3/4, then the very center straight, directional call it, and it looks like you're doing something, and all you're doing is a call they don't know yet.
Yep. That's good because there's calls out there, and I'm sure you've heard them. Like we were talking beforehand, and you mentioned curly Q, but like calls like spin chain through and all that, you just don't hear it very often anymore. Especially if you go into a state convention, it's rare you're going to hear it because since it's not called us, you don't want to be unsuccessful at a state convention where people may not know you.
Right.
Run it at your club because you know that they can do it, first of all. And second, if they don't, you can correct it and get it done. But there's a bunch of calls out there like that. Spin chain through, it's a great call. It's a fun call. And on that, because I use it sometimes. Now, do you consider yourself a modular caller? Or, I mean, we're all a little bit of everything when it comes to sight, modular, and memory.
Yeah.
But do you have a favorite get out from any positions?
I've stolen a lot of stuff from Story, and I like some of his right hand lady get outs.
Right hand lady get outs. Yep.
Yeah.
I did a lot of that this past week when I was at caller school. The right hand lady get outs. They won't give me the easy corner boxes because everybody goes there, but you want to go into so the dancers, because when you have good dancers, they know what's coming. When you wheel and deal or you Ferris wheel and centers pass through or whatever, they know what's coming.
Right.
But they don't see it from a right hand lady box. They don't see it from partner lines all the time. But yeah, the right hand lady box. So I've got to get more into that.
Yeah. It was funny. The past 2 weeks, I've just been on a land and sea cruise, and myself and Bob Asp and Tom Manning and Dan Sahlstrom, we all went up to Alaska. And so up there, when we're calling, it's always funny to see who can do the other guys get out first.
Oh, that's great. That's so good.
I remember I was dancing away and Tom Manning was up there calling, and all of a sudden he got about 3 calls in. I looked up at him and said, "That's mine."
That's good.
He grinned at me and kind of gave me yeah, it was, but you hadn't called it yet.
So you just came off of a square dance cruise where you were calling?
Yeah. Yep, we sure did.
Is that something is that a regular cruise that y'all do every year or every other year, I think?
No. Bob Asked, myself, and Jerry Story did this Alaskan cruise in 2019.
Okay.
And we just absolutely loved it and wanted to go back. And this time, Bob and I invited Tom and Dan to come along with us, and worked out really great, really great.
That's fantastic. Now, do you think y'all are going to keep that going, or?
Oh, I'm never.
I'm just asked because I would like to go to Alaska at some point, so I just want to know if you have plans to do it again, because I'd like to go.
I can always be talked into something, but right now we don't have any plans.
All right, that's all awesome. Well, I'm glad to know there's somebody that's already got a plan in place. And if y'all do it again, I love Dan Sahlstrom, awesome dude. Well, all the guys you mentioned, I really enjoy being around talking to. Dan, I've really gotten to know through national conventions in the GSI, because he's working with the GSI.
Yeah, whale of a caller.
That's how I met him. And since then, we've actually had time to talk and hang out and things like that. And awesome dude. Love that guy.
Yeah.
And of course, Bob Asp, and I'm trying to lock him down for a podcast, but he's kind of cagey on me. I'm going to get him eventually.
Tall and fuzzy. That's what I call him.
Who is it? Tall and fuzzy?
Yep.
I'll have to remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll get him. Before we started, we were talking, you just retired a few months back. And you said your wife's got you busy. picking stuff off the trees and all that thing like that. So tell me more about you. What type of foods do you like? Are you a meat and potatoes guy? What are you?
Definitely a meat and potato guy. I used to raise cattle when I was a kid, and
Wow. Okay.
I love my steaks.
Very nice.
Yep, and we don't live too awfully far away, only about an hour and a half away from the beef house in Indiana. And if you've never been there, that's right on Route 74.
Beef house.
Yeah, and that's a great place to go get a steak.
Okay.
There's plenty of good steakhouses out there, but that's
I'm
a
sure.
real good one around here.
Beef house. All right.
Yeah.
Are you a concert type person? Do you go see concerts, music concerts, anything like that? What do you like to do just for fun, not square dancing?
Just for fun, not square dancing. We usually we have some non-dancing friends, and we'll just get together and play some euchre.
Okay.
Play card games,
Okay.
and sit back and have a cold one, listen to some music, and play some cards.
Very nice.
Yeah,
That's a good life right there.
yeah. Yeah, we got to go to Fleetwood Mac. Oh, I can't remember when it was. I know it was before COVID.
Oh, outstanding. It's a great concert. I've never been.
It was.
Love Fleetwood Mac.
Oh, and Christine McVie was there. That was the whole group was together. It was phenomenal.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
There's a couple of Fleetwood Mac songs that a few labels have put in. Have you ever do any Fleetwood Mac songs?
The one patter. Oh shoot, I can't think of it right now. Bump, ba-da-dum, bump, bump. It's a Christine McVie singing song. Okay. Want to Be With You Everywhere. That's patter. I think that's on Tom's label on Solid Gold. I think.
Solid Gold. All right, I'll check that out. Solid Gold.
I think that's where it is. Maybe it's on Ted's Throwback. I can't remember. It's one of those two.
I'll give it a look tonight.
Yeah, I heard Tom doing it, so that's.
Did you heard Tom was doing it? Okay.
I gotta get that one.
That's what happens to me every convention I go to or whatever. I come away, I've got to go buy 10 songs when I come home.
Yeah.
I did that. I last week I spent some time with Dean Singleton.
Oh yeah.
With Arrowhead, and I came
He's got some nice ones too.
I think by the time I got home, I'd already bought 6 songs from him. Just talk. Cause I'm on his email list and all that, and I know the songs. But when I'm waking up in the morning, I check my email and I see there's a new release from any label. I'll click on it for a second. I'm like, all right, I got to get dressed for work. And I don't go back and review some of them, but Dean's an awesome guy too. Finally got to spend some time with him.
Yeah, he's a nice guy.
Now, you like to play cards and all that. What I like to ask people to get a feel for what kind of stuff you like. Is there a movie or a TV show that if you just happen to be passing through the living room that everything stops and you watch?
Yeah, and some of the dumbest shows you ever wanted to watch.
That's mine. What are they?
One of them would be Groundhog's Day.
Very nice. Bill Murray. Yep.
Yeah. Another one would be That Thing You Do that Tom Hanks put out.
I have not watched that yet. I'm aware of the movie. I'm a huge Tom Hanks fan. I've just never watched it. Very nice.
Yeah. And it's more or less about one of the genres that I like, the 60s. So, so that's pretty cool. And then what would be another one? Oh, Forrest Gump would be another one. And I hate walking in on Forrest Gump, especially if it's towards the beginning, because shoot, I'm going to be here a while.
Yep. Forrest Gump and with Tom Hanks, Forrest Gump and Castaway. If I catch that if he's on the plane before it crashes, I'm like, come on, I've got 2.5 hours I've got to spend now. And Forrest Gump's the same way. When he's running down the driveway with the braces on his legs, I'm like, oh, I got 3 hours of this, and I'm just down.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome.
And then Finding Forrester's another one. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
I'm aware of it. I think I've actually seen it, but I've watched like a one-time watch.
Yeah, and that's kind of goes back to my basketball playing days. So
okay. Now, did you play basketball in high school or college or anything?
I played basketball through high school and played my freshman year of college. Okay. And the coach that recruited me to come in, this was at a junior college. By the time I got there, he'd been recruited by a bigger school and he was gone. And so the new athletic director was the assistant coach. And first night of practice, I went up and dunked one, and he calls me over. He said, "We can't have that." I said, "What? We can't have what you just did?" I said, "Dunking?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "No, wait a minute. Now, this is college men's basketball, right?" "Yeah." "And you don't want any dunking?" "Nope." I said, "You and I aren't going to get along." And I ran a lot. He made the team run. He had the captains coming over to me, and I ignored him, and he finally gave up punishing me and punishing the team. And my sophomore year, he was going to be the head coach, and I just decided I'd save us both the headache. So then I just went rec ball from there.
That is a great story, Curt. My goodness. Well, at my height, I've never had the opportunity to dunk on a regulation goal. We used to have a 7-foot goal by my house when I was growing up, and there'd be 8 of us out there just getting after it, dunking on that thing.
Yep.
And
It's still fun, isn't it?
oh, you can get the little hoop that goes on the back of your door, and I'll dunk for an hour on that.
Yeah. It's fun.
Oh, that's good.
I know all I had were girls, and I was trying to teach them all to be basketball players. And one afternoon, we had a bunch of kids out at the house, and one of my buddies and he had played at a D2 or D3 college all 4 years. And the boys were out playing, and so we were out at the grill, and so we just start stretching a little bit, and the ball finally came over our way, and I took it and went up and dunked one, and they're like, "Holy cow." The old man can still jump.
Gosh, that's a great point. Oh, that's good stuff, Curt.
The old man can't jump anymore, though.
Well, that's one of those diminishing skills, I imagine.
Yeah.
I had to go to the range today. Most people already know I'm a police officer, and I'm pretty soon to retire. But I had to go to my final range since I'm working through the year, and it's a diminishing skill. Now, dunking is one thing, but shooting it at a paper target, if you don't practice it, doesn't matter if you're good at it. There's going to come a time when these aren't good enough anymore. I probably need my next prescription. And I realized that today. I was just like, well, those scores are not where they used to be. And then they have little drills where you have to run over here, run over there, duck behind this. And I was like, I am way too old for this. I've got these young guys, 27, 28 years old, running around diving in rocks. And I'm like, what are you doing? Yeah, but I feel for you there, buddy. But you at one point you could dunk, so that's awesome. Fantastic.
Oh yeah, I was a jumping fool.
Now, have you ever called any other countries or anything? Well, you went to Alaska's United States.
Alaska's still it. Yeah. No, I don't think I've ever called out of the country. No.
Okay. Now I asked this because you've been doing it for a long time. If you could call anywhere, where would it be? It could be somewhere you've already been, but where would it be?
Yeah. That's a darn good question. I don't know. I guess might sound kind of corny, but I think it'd be kind of cool to be able to call for the Illinois State Square Dance Convention, be the featured caller there. And because, they never hire the local boy. The local boy never gets hired for that gig. I've done all the states around us, but I haven't done Illinois. And so that would be kind of cool.
Okay. I am planning to go next year. I've talked to a couple of folks from Illinois, and I told them I would be there.
Good.
So looking forward to doing that. I know that y'all had a lot of people this past year. I've talked to several, Victoria Bundy and a few others. Teresa Berger, I think, also was there.
Yes.
And, got to talk to them about it. Now, I've never had the opportunity to do it. Hopefully at some point I will. Back to like the Pride weekend and the other weekends you do. You talk about doing workshops in the mornings, afternoons, whatever. What's your process for that? How do you plan something like that? What do you go think about when you go into that?
Well, uh, like for Pride, for example, I'll have 2 or 3 calls in mind that I might think I'd like to workshop. And then Sunday night, is our first night that we start the week off. And I'll just be calling along. And all of a sudden, if the floor has troubles with a call, it's like, whoop, there's the first one we're going to workshop,
Okay.
And find a lot of workshops that way.
Gotcha.
You go to a different area, and everybody has their own style, and you're calling away, and they stumble on a call, you come back around to it, and they stumble on it again. Well, we're going to workshop that way they don't have to worry about stumbling anymore. So, and you just never know what that call is going to be.
Yeah, that's it. We joke about it. Some of the guys that I see on a regular basis around here, you go in, if a club hires you, if it's not your club that all the dancers for the most part, club hires you, you go in with a plan. I've got 7 tips. Now I usually only get 6 all total, depending on what the night holds. But I've got 7 tips ready to go. And we alternate here, plus mainstream plus for most of the night. But you go in there with a plan. Hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to work on this one in my mainstream plus. And you walk in there, and they'll say, we just want to let you know this is our halfway dance for some of our dancers. And I was like, well, there goes that plan.
Yeah.
Or you go in there and you want to do something, and they say, hey, can you real quick workshop load the boat? And I'm like, oh, okay. And we do it, but you have this plan.
Sure.
And just like you said, you go in there Sunday night and you're like, well, that call is going out the door. We got to work on this one. So
yeah,
makes a lot of sense.
And that's okay. I mean,
it is
as long as you're ready, you got your plan, and plans change, and
that's what. There's a few clubs around here that they hire me, and they ask, and I'm always open for it because I enjoy doing it, if we can do a 30-minute workshop or an hour workshop for a plus. It's typically a 30-minute plus workshop prior to every dance, depending on the club. And I do that. And I'm like, sure. I'll walk in there and I'll either start with, is there anything y'all want to work on? If they're like, oh, well, it's always load the boat. It's always crossfire. And but what I'll do, I'm like, hey, let me just call for about 4 minutes, and we'll see what you need to work on. And I'll do that. I'll just call plus for about 4 minutes, and I know where I'm going with each one of them. Coordinates coming in. Sure. It's going to be coordinate. It's going to be load the boat. I don't know why it's always load the boat, but it's load the boat. And relay the doozy. I've workshop relay the doozy. I could literally close my eyes and tell you how to do it and know where everybody's going to make the mistakes. But I love it. I think it makes me a better caller doing workshops.
Sure.
Years, for the years starting out, talking to mentors, and I've had several, but they all told me, and the main one, Tony Oxendine, 4 years ago, he said, if you're ever going to get better, you got to have a club. You got to teach. And and I see that because I have a club, and I've taught a lot now in the past 3 years, and it's a huge difference, and I see that with the newer callers. There's some really good newer callers out there, but you can tell the callers that don't necessarily know all the parts of a call. They just know the call. They don't know where you're going to end and that's where the start stop comes from. They don't know where the call ends. They don't know where that man's going to be when it's over. So that's in the teaching. It goes hand in hand with the teaching. You know where it's going. So I'll do a workshop anytime anybody asks. So.
Yeah,
that's good stuff.
No, and you're right with the new callers. They just need mic time. They need to practice. And part of practice is knowing the definition and knowing where the call starts, knowing where it ends, so you know what to call next.
I've talked to a lot of callers in that respect. That you need the mic time, you need to be on the stage, you need to be in front of actual dancing people. I made the joke during COVID where we were shut down everywhere for a year and a half, where depending on where you were, that I called for my sofa cushions for 6 months, and it was just awful. You can't just sit in your living room. Yeah, you have to practice your singing calls. You got to ride in your car and call the same singing call 100 times. Sit in your living room. You sitting under your dad's table when he's practicing that many years ago. But the choreography and all that's something you've got to work on, and you have to have live people moving.
Yeah.
You can do taminations, that's great, but taminations will do anything you tell it to. Dancers will not. You're going to have to figure out how to get there. So in that regard, do you have any advice for callers, whether they're starting out or anything?
For the newer caller, find yourself a mentor or two, but you got to trust your mentor. I've helped some newer callers, and they find, it's taken some of them a couple of years before they start listening to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell them, you need to do this. Well, I already do that. No, you think you do, but you're not. And most of your mentors, they have your best interests at hand. They
Sure.
really do. They want to see you succeed. And but for some reason, I don't know how I was. I don't really remember. Unfortunately, Charley just passed away here this last year. So Charley Engelhardt, I'm talking, and we would not be able to ask him if, was I a know-it-all? Did I think I knew how to do everything, or did I actually listen to you? I don't know. I guess we could still ask Brad and see what he has to say about it. But that's the big thing is listen to your mentor and trust your mentor. If they say you're doing this all the time, well, you got to really think about it.
Yeah.
And when you hear, concentrate on not doing that. One of the biggies, I think Tony even addresses it. I know Jerry Story used to all the time, was up to the middle and back.
Mm-hmm.
Bend the line up to the middle and back and right left through. Well, you didn't give them any time to do the up to the middle and back.
Yeah.
Little things like that. It's little things that some people don't think of, and other things are, I had one guy, you talk too much. Start calling, you're talking too much. I don't talk too much. You don't think so? Tape yourself, and that's a big thing too, is take a tape recorder and record yourself.
It really is. I've talked to several people. The callers now have more of an advantage. I will give you that. As before, when you were coming in 1985, well, we had tape recorders in 1985 because I was in high school in 1985. I remember that time.
Sure.
Best music in the world, actually, in 1985. But was coming out, and but today with this right here, with a Zoom call and YouTube, where I put these things out, there's so much square dance calling that you can find on YouTube. You can find anybody for the most part, more of some, less of others. And that's just it, trusting the caller. I've patterned myself. I've found a handful of callers, and I'm like, I want to be just like them. I want to sound like that. I want to, all their little back and forth. And, and it's people from all over with different abilities. And,
right.
Back then when you were coming up, it was just the guys that were around you, the callers that were around you.
Right.
So yeah, you definitely need to record yourself, go back and listen to it. I've noticed even when I started doing these podcasts, I used to say, I think phenomenal. And I didn't realize how often I said it. And I was like, I got to stop that. Same thing with calling. There's certain things. Another one that I always do is, Ferris wheel, bring them on in. I always say that. And I didn't pick up on it until I started watching videos that I was putting on YouTube or Facebook or whatever. And I thought, I've got to stop saying bring them on in. It's not original.
Well, no, but that's also your way of timing.
It is. Another thing that, and everybody has their own things. But when I'll do like a singing call, head square through four, when and square through four, heads promenade halfway, walk in, square through four, to a right and left. I will make sure that I'll say it in my head so that I keep the timing. But when you've got a really good piece of music, to let the music play behind it as opposed to talking over it. And I've seen a couple at conventions and all that, and I'm just like, well, why are you playing music? You can't hear it because there's not a moment that the mic is not picking up something you're saying. So there's times a caller needs to be quiet. It's not a lot.
Yeah, there are.
But there's times. So.
Yep, I agree.
What else, Curt? Tell me something else about you that we wouldn't know.
Well, you may or may not know that when I was early in my calling career, I used to be in plays in high school.
Okay.
Not a ton of them, but a few of them. I played a lot of basketball, so that there's a fine line about how much else you could do. And but I played Curly in Oklahoma for the community theater there in Winnipeg. That was in 95, I think. And so that was pretty good. And then of course, one of the parts in there, I'm kissing my co-star, and I remember my girls at the time, I don't remember how old they are, maybe 8, somewhere in there. And the one daughter, she told me later, she said, "I thought you were having an affair with Mom." Well, that's a heck of a way to have an affair in front of 500 people in the audience.
Oh my gosh.
3 girls and 8 grandkids.
Wow, very nice. I've just got the one. I've got one son and a grandson.
Yeah.
He said there's going to be more, so we'll see how many there's going to be. Who knows? Oh,
yeah.
That's good stuff. So
the square dance activity has really been good to me. Gotten to know a lot of great people all around the country, of course, and the different labels I've been on. Started on Nickle, did some Chicago country. Where the heck did I go? I can't remember. I know I got to work with Daryl Lipscomb on Riverboat once. And then was fortunate enough to get picked up by Jerry Story and Tony Oxendine, and was very honored to be on the Royal label.
Royal, yep.
So, and I recently did one for a guest spot for Tom Manning on his Solid Gold. So
I got to get Tom on here too. I want to talk to that guy. That'd be good stuff.
Yeah.
Now going forward, we said in September you're at Pride. What else do you have? You got any other weekends or anything coming up this year?
Yeah, just I also mentioned the Turkey Run State Park. I do that in May every year, the middle of May. I do one with Dan Sahlstrom up in the Dells, the end of May, first part of June. Do one with Bob Ass, also in the Dells at Chula Vista Resort. People hear Chula Vista, they automatically go to California, but there's one in the Wisconsin Dells also.
There's one in Wisconsin, okay. And now we didn't get too much into it all. You're in Caller Lab?
Yeah. Caller Lab member for
you gonna be in South Carolina next year?
Yep, planning on being there for number 50.
Absolutely. Good I will definitely get to run into you there. And of course, Shreveport for the you can be a national.
Yeah.
Okay,
Absolutely. Yeah, looking forward to that. They put on a great skit up there in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
I don't know if you got to catch that or not.
I didn't catch it. I think it's actually on YouTube. I think the video was put.
Oh, is it? Yeah, it could
I think
be.
so.
Yeah, they had their crocodile out there, or maybe they call it an alligator. I'm not sure which it is.
I think it's an alligator. But it can be a crocodile.
But anyway, the guy was out.
It's alligators. I think Louisiana's alligators. I don't think it's crocodiles down.
Okay.
I don't know where the crocodile hunter's Australia.
Yeah,
Swamp, I think swamp people was alligators and they were Louisiana. The swamp.
Okay, there you go. Yeah,
So there's that.
I don't have to worry about those around here where I'm at.
I don't imagine you do. In Georgia, not so much, but we can certainly stumble onto it if you get down toward Florida. You'll bump into a couple. Well, Curt, man, I appreciate the time, buddy. We're knocking on about an hour's door. Really appreciate you doing this with me. Look forward to seeing you. I guess the first thing that we're gonna have is Color Lab that I'll get to see you, and then of course the nationals after that. Well, I am going to look at the flyers. What week is? Do you know what your week is at Pride? What the actual dates are?
I think it's September 10. Let me see here.
10 through 14, maybe.
Oops, I'm going the wrong way. Let me look real quick. So, no, it's the 8th through the 13th.
8th through the 13th.
Yep.
I'm gonna look at that. It's about 3 hours. I think it's about 189 miles from my house. I'd like to get over there. That way we could sit down and have a talk and hang out a little bit.
Yeah.
And I get to dance to you. I don't,
Yeah. Come on over. I'll take you out to Gigi's for lunch.
Absolutely. We didn't get to go this past week when I was there. I've heard about it. Jack was really selling it, but we didn't have the opportunity to go. So
yeah,
we'll do that. Curt, I appreciate it, buddy. We'll talk again soon, maybe in September. If not, we'll definitely see each other in South Carolina at Color Lab.
Yep, that sounds great, Charlie. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, buddy. I'll talk to you soon. Have a good night.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.
Size, face, grand, square. You used to think that it was so easy. You used to say that it was so easy. But you're trying now. Allemande and weave. Another year and then you'd be happy. Just one more